we got the film made and we sold the film for a profit. So that is winning, right? You know, did we hit what our expectations were? Not really. And did we hit what our buyers' expectations were? Not really. You know, when you first think of who your audience is, the main audience that we were trying to connect with at the early stage was the film buying audience, the festivals and the distributors. And we won that one really well. We were the first film to sell at Toronto last year. We sold it for $1 million for North America. You know, when I built my own P&L, I had a 0 in for North America. So now, on top of that, my international was off by about 30%, so the North America covered that number. The numbers that we were told that film was going to hit in terms of VOD buys and theatrical bookings and ultimately theatrical box office, we didn't hit. You know, we didn't come close to that. You know, so to that degree, you know, did we leave money on the table? You know, the head of Magnolia called me the day Super opened. They didn't distribute the film, and he told me what my box office and my VOD buys were going to be from his competitor, and he told me what he thought he would have done for me at a much higher number. Well, he predicted, you know, IFC's numbers pretty accurately, you know, and his numbers, of course, were higher. They're doing good business on it. That Super, you know, right now I think is at about 230,000 VOD transactions, which is pretty good, and it does. It's now dropped below it, but we didn't bring it out on Xbox until really late in the game, and it was doing consistently 10,000 transactions a week, and now it's dropped down. You know, so it's continually earning and doing well. You know, all of this is still emerging in a new way, and you know, the fact that the best people in the business don't really know how to do it right yet, you know, but do a lot better than I would, and it just shows that it's still there. You know, the fact is, all that effort paid off because we got our film bought and sold and handled in a really good way, and for our team, that was what we were looking to do.
But that started with the Twitter campaign? I mean,
that was where the movie really began, 100%. And the noise that we made on it helped a lot. And one of the ways, you know, because Rain is not a star with international value, but the fact that at the time, you know, he had over, it was like 1.25 Twitter followers, that the foreign sales agent, you know, valued that, and it helped put our estimates up higher, which allowed the equity financier to believe in the project and put in more money. So all of that had a nice ripple effect.
Would you say that in terms of being a creator, that the idea of like being a Spielberg or a Kubrick or anything like that or like a Terrence Malick type of director, those days are done, there's never really going to be one of those, and that you should be more of like a Derek comedy type of person and make, you know, YouTube shorts nonstop to entertain an audience and get more and more subscribers?
I think the world, you know, shut me up, but I think the world affords a plethora of options. I think you absolutely can be Terrence Malick if that's your gift, and going forward with that. I think there's more opportunities that I don't think Stanley Kubrick and Steven Spielberg would necessarily opt for the same careers if they were starting today. We've never had the opportunity until now to really become immersive storytellers, to leave the feature film form, you know, and start to instead build story worlds of a much larger variety. We can make the movie that won't ever leave you alone now. Right? It's going to keep coming back, and it's going to pester, and you're going to open your sock drawer, there it is again. You know, it's like, what's it doing back? I thought I got rid of that. It's going to keep coming back and playing with you, and you're going to enjoy that, you know, and you're going to keep engaging in it for your entire life. We can make deep immersive culture. You know, I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a book by Frank Rose out now called The Art of Immersion. I recommend reading it. I recommend reading it fast. Don't dwell on it too long. But it's interesting to me to start to kind of think about what do you do when you want to tell a cross-platform story. And one of the things I think comes from that, though, is probably the end of traditional authorship. You know, that you become more of the story designer who plays in certain realms of it, and you have other collaborators who do that. You know,
but I think that's, you know, that's true to an extent, and film's always been collaborative, and I think that authorship, you know, is part of, like, no, it's okay.
Anyone want a minute?
Oh, I thought it was something else.
There's only one of those.
One of David's.
You know, this whole notion of artistic entrepreneurship, I think, is, and like creating yourself as a brand, though, kind of links into authorship, because you're going to create followers who are going to be looking for certain kinds of content or a certain attitude and vision from you that you would then perpetuate.
But
so I think they still.
But I think that I might put that into your film, which is more your movie, and you'll be able to see, you know, my, like, it's like Ted played bass on John's album. You know, like, it's still your album, but you'll feel my contribution to it. And then I'm going to go out and work with Gary, but I'm only going to do the cover art, you know, for his. And like those,
which is also a lot more of a music model that I think musicians are pretty smart about this. When you see even top musicians like
and YouTube
Kanye,
artists, the YouTube guys do it really well too.
Right. And that way they cross-pollinate audiences by working together, like Kanye works with Rihanna and blah, 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 works with so-and-so.
Or so, Ryan Higa does with Smosh. You know, it's like...
But can't you go back to Twin Peaks, I mean, and go that there was a TV show that spawned a movie, that spawned a game, that spawned a deck of cards, that spawned an audio tape, that spawned a book.
But that's a franchise.
Well, I understand.
It's
but I mean,
different.
But in what particular sense? I mean, in other words, it was all done from one particular purveyor. But
right. I think you can look at it like that. There are, you know, the strand of, you know, franchise and brand management. There's the strand of artist collaboration. You know, but immersive storytelling is a completely different thing. That all these things might bleed through. You know, that you know, I could be working on a movie now that, you know, my movie lines are just one aspect of it. My webisodes are just one aspect of it. My visualization of those pieces and the sculptures and paintings and pictures they put are another aspect of it. And you don't even know how these things connect until I give you the payoff 5 years from now, and then you're like, holy fucking cow, you know, I've been, you know, tricked by Ted for these 5 years. This is the greatest thing, and you're gonna give up your job and your marriage to get by my next episode, because it's like,
which is gonna cost $200,000.
and it comes it's just like that.
there you go. It's a cartel. It's a
The thing is,
the app, the
difference
start
with
of
Twin
that?
Peaks and having all those things, and the reason is because none of those things expanded the story. It was just the repetition of the story. So the idea is have it unfolding repetition. No.
Well, I mean, I really like Twin Peaks, and you know, as much as anyone gives Fire Walk with Me, you know, grief, I scared the hell out of me that one more than, you know, if Bob was in this room today, like but so I think it did expand it, but it kept it on the same platform, whether it was television or those sort of things. And I think that the ways, because we live in a participatory culture, and gaming and all this stuff is so, you know, all these different things. Like I had such a great, you know, I like to do my meetings walking because I'm a little restless, and so I had a great walking meeting, you know, with somebody who's working with Mozilla on HTML5 and talking to me about like how I can put my links into my narratives so that when you scan across it, you know, and you look at the sky, you will always see the weather in Pepin when you see me walking in this scene. You know, it will constantly be changing and be updated to that weather. And when you pick up, you know, this other, you scroll across, you know, this subject line, it will always be refreshing it as the fans build up the content along the way. Like there's so much stuff that's out there, but because we are snobbish artists who think we work by ourselves to make good work, we don't go try to collaborate with the tech people and say, give us these tools that allow us to do things like what Chris Milk did, you know, on the Arcade Fire thing, or you know, there's so much more rich stuff that we can do that we're not even, you know,
considering it.
Yeah.